Hello, class. Mr. Maynard here. I wanted to spend a few minutes today and record a video to talk to you about careers um, that can be a continuation of human services degrees. Reading in all my classes, reading your discussion boards is one of my favorite things to do because I get to know more about you and what you want to do with your degree. And it seems like several of you are looking at careers which require higher education, a higher level of education than we offer here at Big Sandy, but careers that require either a bachelor's or a master's or a doctorate level degree. And I kind of wanted to focus on those last two today because I want to make sure there's no confusion, or I want to get rid of as much confusion as possible regarding four different careers. So, what I'd like to talk to you about today are a CSW, LCSW, an LPCC, a psychologist, and a psychiatrist, because I see us use these terms all the time, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page with what they are. And some of the requirements you might need to meet. And again, feel free to double check me on these. I know the most about social work, but I'm also quite familiar with other ones as well. So let's start with the two highest levels. We have a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And a lot of people use the term psychologist and psychiatrist interchangeably. And that is a problem because they're very different. So, a psychologist is an individual who has a doctorate level education and focuses on diagnosing, treating mental, emotional, and behavioral disorders through various forms of psychotherapy and counseling. Very important, they cannot, in the state of Kentucky and in most states, prescribe medication. A psychologist does not prescribe medication. Education and training to become a psychologist in the state of Kentucky, you have to have a PhD, so a doctorate level degree, a PsyD, which is still a doctorate level degree, or an EDD in psychology. All these are doctorate level degrees in psychology. And they have to be from an accredited institution. Programs for psychology normally take 5 to 7 years to complete, and you won't qualify to get into these programs until you at least have a bachelor's degree. So after you get your bachelor's degree, which is a 4 year degree, which would be 2 years after Big Sandy, you would then spend an additional 5 to 7 years getting a doctorate degree in psychology. After that, you would need to complete an internship, minimum 2 years supervised professional experience, an 1,800 hour doctorate level internship. And then, of course, you have to pass a humongous exam. So that's what you have to be a psychologist. So when you think of psychologist, I want you to think of someone who has attained a very high level degree in psychology. Okay, now we're going to talk about psychiatrists. So we're going to set psychologists down for a moment. A psychiatrist, when you hear the word psychiatrist, I don't want you to think of psychology at first. What I want you to think of is a medical doctor, because a psychiatrist is a medical doctor, just like a heart doctor is a medical doctor, and a nephrologist is a kidney doctor, and a podiatrist is a doctor. What we're looking at is a psychiatrist is a medical doctor. They're an MD. However, they're a medical doctor who specializes in mental health. Now, out of the four professions I named, psychologist, psychiatrist, LCSW, CSW, and LPCC, out of all four of those, a psychiatrist is the only profession out of those four that can prescribe medication because they are medical doctors. They also, like other professions, they diagnose and treat mental health illnesses using a combination of medication, so pharmacology, and psychotherapy. Again, when you think of psychologist, I want you to think of high level academic psychology. When you think of psychiatrist, I want you to think of medical doctor who specializes in mental health. In order to become a psychiatrist, since you are a medical doctor, you have to complete medical school, which is something you do after you achieved your bachelor's degree. You'd either become an MD, or you'd become a doctor of osteopathic medicine, a DO. And normally, medical school is 4 years. After completing medical school, you would then complete a residency, and you would do your residency in psychiatry. Um, and that's where you'd receive, oh, excuse me, that's where you'd receive more training in psychiatry. So, I will say this. I've known quite a few doctors, and I've known quite well, not many, but a few psychiatrists. And I can say that residency programs, because you have to get into a residency program, kind of like you get into medical school or you get into college, you have to apply and be accepted. Medical school residencies for psychiatry are some of the most competitive and most difficult to get in the nation. Finally, after completing both medical school and your residency, you have to get your licensure, and through that, you'll have to take a board certification exam, which are very difficult and very hard. Okay, so those are our two doctorate level degrees. We have our psychologist and we have our psychiatrist. Then we have a CSW, LCSW, which is a certified social worker or a licensed clinical social worker. I am a CSW, I'm a certified social worker. And social workers, as I'm sure you know by now, help individuals and families and communities cope with and improve their well-being. A CSW works under the license or under the supervision of an LCSW. LCSWs can practice independently. In order to become a CSW and thus become an LCSW, you would have to obtain your Master's of Social Work degree, your MSW, and then you would have to pass the CSW exam. So think about it like this: MSW is the degree, CSW, LCSW is the license you get from the state. So if you ever notice, I know a lot of times you'll see me sign things with Mr. Maynard, but if you see my full signature, it'll say Jordan Maynard, MSW, CSW. MSW means the schooling I've done. CSW means I've got that first level of licensure. After you pass that CSW exam, you then have to work under the supervision of an LCSW for 2,000 hours. It's a minimum of 2 years. You'll have to do supervision. They'll check your notes. You'll work together on clients. And then you'll have to pass another exam. And then after that, you'll become an LCSW and you can practice independently. Okay, now let's talk about LPCCs. I will admit I know less about LPCCs as I went the MSW, LCSW track, but from the information I have, there are, as we have a CSW and an LCSW, you have a LPCA, which is a licensed professional counselor associate, and an LPCC. And I think, from my understanding, they work in the same sense as a uh, CSW and a LCSW. One can practice independently, being the LPCC, and the other has to practice under the supervision of an LPC, which is the LPCA. And a professional counselor are the people who help individuals and groups with mental and emotional health issues. The LPCC can practice independently, the LPCA cannot. Like an LCSW and a CSW, an LPCC must hold a master's degree or a specialist or a doctoral degree in counseling or a related film or a related field. And it has to be from a CACREP accredited institution, which is the Council for Accreditation of Counseling and Related Educational Programs. And again, I don't know if I said this with the MSW, but both the MSW and the LPCC programs have internships and practicums that you have to do. I know my MSW practicum was 600 hours. My BSW practicum was 400 hours. So again, I just hope this helps kind of give you an idea of what to expect. I see some people, saying that they may want to be a psychiatrist, which is amazing, but we need to think more about medical school next. And if we're going to be a psychologist, we need to think more about maybe getting a bachelor's degree in psychology after finishing our human services degree. Again, I hope this information is helpful. Hopefully, I didn't confuse you even more. If you have any questions at all about any of these careers, let me know. I'd love to help you. I'd love to help you figure out, the next steps in your plan. Come to my office, meet me, set up a meeting on here so we can talk. Um, and if I don't know the answer to something, I'll always do everything I can to find it for you. Again, thanks for your time, and I hope this was helpful. Reach out if you have any questions. As always, have a great day.